I literally cannot do introductions.
Alrighty. Let me get a drink. It is water.
There's something in the air.
Hello, Earpers, and welcome to another episode of There's Something in the Air, normally a spoiler-filled recap podcast of Wynonna Earp. But right now, during the season, we are just doing little mini reaction episodes to each episode as they air. I am Monica.
I'm Michelle.
And we are joined today by friend of the podcast, Heidi.
Hello.
Heidi was nice enough to come on and shout about some feelings with us about this episode, so we really appreciate her coming on. So Heidi, you listen to our podcast. You know, we don't really have like any semblance of order or, you know, like anything coherent. So just jump in wherever.
There is no format. There's no organization. We
None.
just talk.
We do. I want to say I was really happy that Wynonna was wearing those half gloves. They really came in handy for scaling those rocks.
They did not at all come in handy for scaling those rocks.
I mean, they probably helped.
No, because when you're like actually rock climbing, you use your fingertips more than anything else. I was like, you needed just like fingertip gloves to make that okay.
All right, whatever. Okay, clearly I know jack shit about rock climbing. I am not Nicole.
Did you look at the cliffs? They looked so jagged. Like her fingers should have been cut up. That was a thing that I noticed when she got to the top.
Let me tell you, the heights also give me the wheezies. So I try not to look real close at all of that.
I just realized I never looked at her shoes. What kind of shoes did she have on? Because I think that would be more important than her hands.
I wondered what kind of shoes she had too, and I forgot to look, I guess.
I don't think they showed it.
Just for like running through the woods.
Yeah. If she was wearing heels, like those would sink into the mud.
I'm just wondering if she like kicked them off, because how would you climb up there with heels on? I don't even know.
You'd probably do better. Well, no, because your toes would be kind of like on the first stages of frostbite. And as somebody who's had their toes in the first stages of frostbite, you wouldn't be able to climb a cliff. What?
I have questions about that, but I will ask you later.
that time that I did a Tough Mudder on a mountain and it started snowing midway through and everybody was like blue and they ran out of thermal blankets.
All right. Damn.
I do a lot of stupid things.
I have no comment on that. On the stupid things that you
Neither
do.
do I.
All right, great. Let's
we both
move
have off-air comments. It's fine.
I really I loved all of the scenes with Melanie and Megan Follows. Like, Jesus, I mean, come on. They're just both so good. And they're on the screen at the same time, and it's amazing. Okay, go.
I've watched their scenes together so many times because I'm obsessed with that part of the episode. Like, everything with those two is just, like, magical.
I want Megan Follows to just yell at me a lot.
When Wynonna like is getting ready to just take a good long coma nap on the cliff face, and she just yells at her like, "You're on the side of a cliff." I just fell in love with that character so much. Like, it's not the actual character because it's just like Wynonna's projection of what she believes her mom is like, or like how she remembers her mom. But like, I want that version of Mama Earp because she's so entertaining.
What made me laugh, because at first I thought she was up there waving at Wynonna. I was like, what is she doing with her hands? Is she waving? And then I was like, no. And then I realized, oh, she's shaking the rocks in her hands, because then she starts throwing them at her, and that was one of my favorite parts.
Oh, that's actually in my... I guess I'll have to edit it out now, but that was in my recap. Like, what the hell hand gestures is she making up there?
No, she was just pegging her child with rocks.
I mean, what...
Yeah, but before she threw them, she was like, almost like they were dice. She was kind of like shaking them in her hand.
Whose mother hasn't done that to them, really?
I like how she had the ammo ready because she figured she was going to have to pelt Wynonna with rocks. And this is all happening in Wynonna's mind.
In Wynonna's mind?
Yeah.
Hi, honey.
I mean, for a while there, I was not. I was like, is it really in her mind or is it not? I was actually questioning it for a while because it is a supernatural show.
Also based on, like, the season 2 finale and how like Mama Earp was just like hanging out like at the top of a cliff.
Right.
I don't know if they're retconning that and just being like it was Wynonna in her head again because she's actually insane or what. But yeah, I could see how there'd be confusion just because they showed her outside of prison.
Sorry, can we pause for a minute?
Of course.
Okay. Hi. Did you wreck my car? Okay, good. What did you do? You went and got ice cream. You're the best. What kind did you get? Some of our favorite kinds.
Really want to leave the part in where you ask if she wrecked your car.
No, that's fine. You can leave in all of it. I don't care. Sorry. Chris had to run out and do an errand, and my car was in the back, so I told her just to take it. Did you like how it drove? Did you move the seat? Thank you. Fun fact, haven't figured out how to adjust the seat in my car yet.
This is why I need to come
Was she allowed
visit
to
you.
Why? You're
was
going
she
to
allowed
adjust...
to have a drink?
What, Heidi?
I said, was she allowed to have a drink
No.
in the car? Never mind.
Wait, I wasn't there. I'm curious. Are you neurotic about your car?
Yes, I'm neurotic about my car. I just bought it, which is hilarious if you ever saw my last car.
Okay, actually that's fair because like the first year that I had my car, I like the day that I bought my car, me and a friend went and got food and
Wow, those air quotes were so loud, they almost shattered my eardrums. Please continue.
I'm not good at words. But yeah, we had like food in the car and I kept yelling at them. Like I was like, do not drop anything. You can't. It was actually over the top.
Yeah, there's going to be no snacking on the way to Toronto. VP, I don't know if you listen to our podcast, but surprise. Yeah, so I'm a little bit insane. Anyway, I apologize for that interruption. I should have told you guys that she was going to be coming home in the middle. So yeah, I just really like the two of them together in all of the scenes.
I just love it so much because it's like how Wynonna remembers her mom and like remembering shit is like one of my like favorite topics just because like every time you remember something, you're not actually remembering what happened. You're remembering the last time that you remembered something and you just like keep projecting shit onto the memories. So like something that happened 20 years ago that you're remembering now has been altered so many times that it might not be anything close to what actually happened. And like Mama Earp in this episode has so many of Wynonna's main character traits. And it's like, is that actually how Mama Earp was? Or is it just that like Wynonna identifies with her so much that over time she's like warped Mama Earp into like what she is?
I hope we get to find out. I hope like she actually gets out of where she is and is actually with them, and we get to find out what she's like, if that's what she is like.
I think that this episode was a really great setup to that because now we have this idea of like who Mama Earp was, and I'm so sure that it's going to be vastly different than how she actually is because she's had however many years of life experience in prison, and then also because Wynonna's view is definitely distorted.
It's definitely distorted, and she there's obviously something going on with her. I don't know if it's just straight up mental health issues or if it's, there's some sort of supernatural element involved. But, she's hearing voices, and that's not, typical of someone's experience. So there's definitely something going on.
Well, she like either has like a brain tumor, which would be really, really bad and off-brand for the show, or it's some supernatural shit, or she's just dealing with the fact that she feels so much guilt over like leaving Alice that she's like seeing her mom and trying to fight against her because she identifies too much with like what her mom's actions were.
That's also a possibility.
And the other thing that I was thinking about was that like she has a really valid reason for like abandoning, for all intents and purposes, Alice. And like her mom abandoned her, and like both Waverly and her have resented her for the entire time that she's been away. And if for some reason like Mama Earp had a good reason for leaving her, is Alice going to resent Wynonna the same way that she's resented her mom?
Well, except, I mean, the big difference is Alice is going to be with Gus, who we assume is a stable person. She, sort of raised Waverly, whereas Mama left them with Ward.
Yeah, Ward was horrible. I've just been thinking about this way, way, way too much.
I don't think it's too much. I think it's just the right amount. Like, I don't know. There's just so much to unpack with them, and all of the situations. I mean, presumably Michelle, not you, Michelle. Presumably Mama Earp is Waverly's mother, probably, as far as we can tell.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
You
No,
don't think
because
so?
Willa said that she just appeared one day. And I know, like, Willa was, like, this insane, fucked up person. But I think it's, like, because she was around when Wynonna was born. So she saw Mama Earp. I will never call her by her actual name because it's very confusing for me. He saw her, like, pregnant with Wynonna. And so, like, it made sense when she showed up. But then she just said that Waverly showed up out of the blue.
Yeah, that's what I've always thought too. In terms of Mama though, I think she really, the voices are real. And I feel like, I don't know why she got put in prison. Obviously, well, none of us do. But when she says, she just yells out in episode 1, my children or my daughters are off limits. And then when we find out this episode that she never wanted Waverly to visit, ever, or know where she was, I just feel like, what if she's not just hearing voices? Like, what if if something's really in her head, what if they hear, like, what people say to her? I don't know. I feel like she's just protecting them, maybe, from something she doesn't want to know anything about them, if that makes any sense at all.
I like that idea. My thoughts on it were kind of like, because, well, Wynonna's projection of her mom clearly cares about Waverly, but it could just be Wynonna's care of Waverly coming through. But it might just be that she didn't want, like, her, like, youngest child who hadn't been exposed to anything rough, because she, like Ghost Mama Earp said, like, she was everybody else's, be exposed to the fact that, like, she was in prison. Like, she didn't want to taint the memory of her in that way. Like, it'd be better in her mind if she just left instead of she did something. And maybe it was something to, like, protect her kids, or maybe it was just something, like, really, really dumb and shitty and she ended up in prison, but, like, not wanting to taint, like, the quote-unquote pure one out of the trio.
I do think it was telling that she said that, Willa was Ward's from the start and Waverly was everybody else's. And I think that there's a lot in there that we're going to go back. I think we're going to go back to that line a lot when we do our rewatch. Like,
I think so too.
Yeah, that's not like a big, not like necessarily a big hint, but a big breadcrumb.
Well, I think too, if she's not an Earp and Waverly's not a Gibson, but she's everybody else's, like, well, what does that mean? Because it makes you think, oh, well, we all knew that Waverly was the town favorite. Everybody loves Waverly, but this was little kid Waverly, What does it mean that she was everybody else's? It was a curious thing to say.
How old was Waverly when Michelle left? Sorry, when Mama Earp left.
I'm sitting here like, I did not leave.
I didn't go anywhere, you asshole.
I saw somewhere that said 4, and I saw somewhere that said 6.
And I know for a fact that, like, in one of our podcast episodes, we attempted to do math while recording, and it ended very poorly. But I think we came up with a number that I don't remember.
That was working out something. That was that episode of There's Something in the Math, and or There's Math in the Air. I don't remember which one. And I think it was to decide if how old, like, that. It was that poster. That Michelle Gibson poster.
Oh, maybe it was that. It was a trailer one.
That was, well, I saw somebody said her birthday was like 1995-ish. And so if you go backwards.
So she's 21. 22 now.
Well,
that's my brother. She's either 21 or 22.
Well, she'd be 22 this year because I saw her birthday was supposed to be in September of 95.
So she will be 22.
Yeah, she will be 22. But
Isn't it 2018?
Maybe. Can I not do math? I can't do math.
So. My brother's now 23.
So she was born in 1995. That means in 2018, wouldn't she?
Oh, shit, my brother's 23.
Oh, okay.
I would like to take a moment to point out that I am not the engineer of this group. All right, great.
I don't remember how old I am most of the time.
That has nothing to do with remembering ages. That has everything to do with math. I was a theology major.
And?
Not a lot of math.
Dude, I'm an
Father,
engineer.
Son, Holy Spirit, 3 in 1. Like, that's not math.
I'm an engineer. In my entire time in college, I never actually did any arithmetic myself. That's what calculators are for. Anyways, back to the topic at hand.
Although, after all of this, I will say I believe she's 22 because she was 21 when the show started. And then in the AU verse, she had a birthday. Nicole remembered her birthday, I think. So I think
it
she's
wasn't her
22.
birthday. It was for her change of name paperwork.
I hope everybody just heard Chris whisper shout shit in the background. Anyway, she's 22 or 23. It's all that matters.
Well, the notes that I wrote said that the last episode, Wynonna said that she was arrested 6 months before Wynonna killed Ward, which somewhere I read Waverly was 6 when that happened. But then I thought another episode said that she was 4 when Mama left. So I don't know.
I really appreciate that. I appreciate that you have notes.
My whole reason for asking this was, so Mama took her camping right before she got arrested, right?
Yes.
So I'm wondering that camping trip, like there was a lot of talk about survival, right? And I'm wondering if she rescued somebody or found someone in a survival situation. It definitely can't be Waverly. She was part of the family already. And it probably wasn't Doc in the well. Like, we're running out of people on the show of who it could be.
It's Carl.
It's the bar Pussy Willows. Like, I wonder if they somehow rescued Nicole from the cult. Like, I don't know. I'm wondering if those things are tied together.
Talk about full circle. My thoughts on Wynonna's projection of Mama Earp, like choosing Wynonna to single out, is I think that it might also just be that Wynonna viewed like Ward was obsessed with Willa because she was going to be the heir, and Waverly, everybody loved Waverly because she's Waverly. So I feel it could be that she just decided, like, in her head that, like, she was Mama Earp's because everybody wants to belong somewhere, and she's like in the forest when Mama Earp calls her out for abandoning Alice. It's basically an entire scene of all of Wynonna's, like, deepest fears and insecurities, like, coming to the surface and being thrown in her face by herself. So I think it's just like she views her actions as so similar to what her mom did that she's just associating, like, her childhood with her so that she has some justification for it.
I would agree with that.
Again, I've thought about this way too much.
I don't think it's way too much, but you have thought about it a lot, and I don't feel like there's anything I can add to this. I feel like we probably could talk about this relationship the whole time, but maybe since this is supposed to be a mini-sode, we should hit on a couple other things that happened in this episode.
Are you talking about the giant thing?
Just in general. Heidi, where else do your notes take us?
I don't even want to talk about my notes because there's lots of them. Way more than for a mini-sode.
You do realize that a mini-sode goes, the length and the definition of mini is very subjective.
It has to be kind of mini today. I have a lot on my plate tonight.
That's fair.
Sorry, guys.
Okay, well, if you want to skip ahead to Waverly.
Yeah. Dude, stop capturing Waverly.
But the first thing that I thought was weird was I don't ever say anybody's name, right? Like, if I were to call one of you, I wouldn't say, "Hey, Monica, what's up?" So I feel like Nicole should have been clued in that fake Waverly was like, said Nicole twice. I don't know. I thought that would have been like a huge clue. Like, why did she say my name twice?
I completely
agree. She doesn't know the relationship between Nicole and Waverly. So I was a bit disappointed in Officer Hot for not cluing in on that.
That call was so, like, against everything that Waverly is about. Like, remember when Nicole was with Wynonna at Pussy Willows and Waverly called her, and, like, even though it was, like, awkward, they made sure to, like, throw pet names at each other? Like, that's their standard conversation. And here it was just like, "Hi, Nicole. Bye, Nicole." Click.
Yeah, I feel like it should have been a really big red flag.
Maybe her reaction is just because she knows that, like, Wynonna was going to drop, or was it theoretically going to drop some sort of huge bomb, even though she couldn't think of anything bigger than hiding a pregnancy.
I don't know. It still was just weird to me.
This is way bigger than hiding a pregnancy, and she never hid it from Waverly. Sorry, Nicole. Anyway.
I know, I didn't quite understand that line because I was like, you guys, you all fell asleep.
Yeah.
Until the third trimester because Melanie Scrofano was fucking pregnant.
Extremely fucking pregnant.
Like, the pregnancy was
really,
a surprise to her.
Yeah, I mean, really, Waverly hid it from Nicole, not Wynonna hid it from Waverly, but...
Nicole's motives just were kind of murky. I really enjoyed this episode for a lot of reasons and really disliked it for other reasons and was gray about other reasons, but I did think it was kind of choppy. Like, they were trying to fit too much into it, and it kind of ended up being a little bit choppy just because they had to fit so much in. And I think that, like, Nicole's logic in that is part of, like, we just need to get to, like, we need to get from point A to point B, and, like, the path doesn't necessarily need to be perfect. We just need to get there. Or not.
Yes.
Sorry. I'm trying not to be a bulldozer. Steamroller, whatever.
I'm steamrolling, so you should take a turn.
No, I'm good.
Well,
Plus, I keep zoning out. I'm sorry. Please.
I mean, I totally also skipped a whole bunch of stuff. So, like,
well,
that weird guy. Like, my first impression of that guy was he was like a combination of Will. I don't know if you remember from Lost Girl, Will-o'-the-Wisp, the guy who like lived in the forest and started fires, and then one of the Peacock brothers from the X-Files, and they were like the inbred people. And everybody went to the Little Mermaid when he stole her voice, but I went to Val Santiago from Lost Girl. He kind of did the whole thing with her neck.
I really want to say that, like, I was so proud of myself for, like, my mind going to the Ursula thing, because I don't remember, like, anything about any Disney movies, but as a child, I was fucking terrified of Ursula, so that's the one that I remember.
Oh, I really liked Ursula as a child. Although I wasn't as young as you were.
I'm going to regret saying this and leaving it in through my editing process. But as a child, I was really afraid that for some reason that she was like going to come up through like the drain when I was taking a bath as a kid. And so I just had like this really irrational fear of her.
Huh.
Yep, that's me.
The best part about this podcast is getting these fun insights into each other. Yeah, so he took her voice, and so I watched the episode with like 7 other Earpers, which was super fun. And like that happened, and I don't know, like one person started singing like the music tones for, like, you know, when Ariel gets her voice, but when she's singing, someone started doing that. Someone else started doing like there was just a lot of Little Mermaiding going on, which was very entertaining. That dude was creepy as fuck. And like a horrible guy, but like as the Revenants go, like I think probably pretty forgettable. Like he wasn't the point of this episode. He wasn't. Sometimes they are, like, you know, in the Blade, that you remember him, you remember Father Augie, but
after season 1, the Revenants kind of faded into the background. For some reason, when I heard his voice and like got like a first shot of him, I instantly went to the crazy dude in Shorty's basement, Smeth Lab, cooking up the poison.
The Buffalo Bill guy. So did we.
Yes.
I thought that it was the same guy, like he had retired from cooking meth and decided to go live in the woods. It wasn't the same guy, right?
Right. Well, because he's not dead. Doc threw a knife at him, but he didn't get killed by Peacemaker.
But you can't kill a Revenant unless it's... Okay, here's my other question. Can you kill a Revenant without Peacemaker? Because Wynonna threw him into like a hole in the ground and was like, yeah, he's pretty much dead. And like his superpowers gave up and like Waverly got her voice back. But like she didn't shoot him.
I don't think he went to hell, but I'm not sure. She went back and did that
I don't
later,
think
probably.
so.
Like, were there spikes in the bottom of that pit?
I assume that there were.
Yeah.
And he quote-unquote died, but didn't actually die because he's still alive because he's a Revenant?
I think he could maybe die, but he didn't get sent back to hell, and he could, you know, heal himself and come back.
I got
the feeling he was going to be stuck there, so she killed him.
Yeah.
I just really, really loved how, like, Wynonna was able to morph her voice to sound like it was in the hole. Like another Earp air superpower.
No, she had a recorder, didn't she?
Did she? I was thinking she was some kind of crazy ventriloquist.
Did she have her recorder?
I think, and I just answered my own damn question. So when she goes in and is rustling around the truck and she picks a coat and a bottle of whiskey, she grabs something else and puts it in the pocket. And it's a voice recorder. Okay, writers, what the fuck? Like, why would that happen?
I have so many questions. That makes no sense.
What? If somebody ever takes my voice like that, and you don't know how I have to get it back, like, does he have to give it back to me? Does he have to say a magic word or something? Please don't shove him into a hole full of spikes until I get my voice back. Because I thought that was a risk. I was like, how do you know she's going to get her voice back?
We need to talk about, like, Waverly and Wynonna's, like, trying to communicate. Like, their entire everything in that fucking cannibal cabin.
Breast alligator?
It was so good. Jiggling teacups, was that one of them?
Yes. Okay, what was your nitpick that you were going to do?
I didn't have a nitpick. I just really enjoyed Wynonna and Waverly trying to communicate, and then them having like an emotional moment while Waverly can't say anything.
It was very reminiscent of Hush. Like, you know, Buffy and Riley get their voices back and they just sit there and say nothing to each other. Kind of reminded me of that. But that little scene was hilarious. Hilarious.
I also don't understand how those booby traps worked. Because, like, if it's like a tripwire thing, like, was it suspended from the ceiling in some way? So, like, jumping to the right would make you miss it? Because if it was just across the room, like, you would still get chopped. Like, your head would still get chopped off. I would like a diagram of all the booby traps. I want a blueprint.
Too, because because when the guy walked in and he just walked forward and it was just suddenly there, like, well, where did it come from?
Like, was it like a pressure plate or something? Like, I don't understand it. And it kind of bugged me during the episode when I was first watching it, like when the guy, like when I figured out what was going on. Because I'm like, that doesn't, like, I don't understand the physics of how you set up these traps. And I really like enjoying the physics of things.
I thought it was from, you know, stepping on the boards, but I don't know where the trap parts came from. Yeah, I don't know.
I just want someone to explain.
Like a wire. Did it lower down? Like,
but you would see the thing because they jumped like 2.5 feet to the right. So, like, you would have to see whatever anchored it on the right side.
Right, and Waverly acted like she couldn't see it. She just kind of waved her arms around like, well, I don't know where it is, but I know you can't walk forward. So, yeah, it was weird. It was entertaining, though.
I mean, it was really funny. And I really enjoyed, like, the conversation they had, quote-unquote conversation, where, like, Waverly just shoved the prison pass at Wynonna, and she was just like, oh, let me unload because you can't actually respond.
It's a good thing she managed to hold on to that after being dragged through the woods, bleeding and screaming.
I wrote the same thing down, like.
I thought that was really funny, and I also really enjoyed how, like, she was bleeding enough, or, like, injured enough to leave, like, a really nice bloody trail through the snow to the cabin. And then when she was in the cabin, like, she wasn't gushing blood anywhere because the amount of time, like, the amount of bleeding post-accident, and then, like, the amount of time that passed between the accident and when Waverly, like, hobbled to save Nicole, like, if, like she would have bled out. And I doubt Revenant dude, like, bandaged her up because, like, if she died, he could just eat her faster.
What is it with Revenants and eating people? Like, seriously.
I don't know.
I'm like, what is with all of my shows lately? And
I know.
People? Oh, seriously, every show. We're gonna eat people.
When I was watching it, I was like, again? Twice in 1 week?
What other, you know what, I don't care.
Take a wild guess.
It's that show, yeah.
Nope, I don't care.
Well, real quick back on Mama, I do think it's interesting. I'm curious. Her prison passed as Gibson, which, were they actually ever married, or did she not take the Earp name? Did she always stay at Gibson? I was just curious about that. Because I could see how if you're a rodeo queen and you got married and you took the Earp name, you could keep your name because you're known in the rodeo circuit as a Gibson. But if you went to prison, it's going to be your legal name on your, you know, prison ID and then the prison pass for your daughter to get in. So I thought it was curious that.
Well, maybe we should be calling her Mama Gibson.
I think maybe.
Right?
Like,
well, yeah.
Because if you get married, like, you don't have to change your name, right?
You don't have to, but I have a hard
No.
time believing Ward Earp would have let his wife not take his name.
I have a hard time believing that Michelle Gibson would allow herself to be change her name to somebody else. Because it seems like one of the things Wynonna took away from her relationship with her mom was that you don't rely on people. Like, you need to be completely self-sufficient. And it's like she said, when you rely on people, that's when you're dead. So if that's a lesson Wynonna learned from her mom, I find it hard to believe that she would change her name for Ward.
Well, that's fair.
Yeah. I'm still curious, though. I mean, maybe they weren't actually even married.
But I just want to randomly remember that, when she would get into a fight with Ward, they went to the boundary where Wynonna shot Willa, and maybe, there's something in there about the voices that she's hearing. Maybe that's all tied together. I mean, obviously it's all fucking tied together because it's Emily fucking Andress and everything has a reason. But sorry, that just occurred to me as we were talking and I wanted to throw it out there.
Well, speaking of it's all tied together, I just thought it was interesting, too, that the Revenant guy calls Waverly a little bird in a cage. And I thought that was a callback to Willa being trapped in that bird sanctuary, swan sanctuary or whatever.
Damn, that's a good one. That didn't even...
Also, really, it didn't... What?
I didn't even catch that.
What were you going to say?
Yeah, I didn't.
He calls her a bird. Yeah, I think a pretty bird or something, or what bird doesn't need to be in a cage, and then when he's shoving her into the cage.
I did not make that connection. That's awesome.
I didn't either.
And I was really... I thought it was a missed opportunity back to when she was on the cliff and she said the situation is a shit something, and I was like, no, the situation is balls.
Yes.
That would have been a call back to Waverly, but...
Shit sandwich, I believe.
Yeah, shit sandwich. But I think you might be right, Michelle. I think the only stuff left to talk about is Joel,
I think
and Doc and Jeremy.
So we have I need to point this out. Jeremy ran a fucking simulation, and when when he said that, I had a very strong reaction, and then 5 seconds later I got a text from Monica that said simulation.
Yeah, the people I was with started shouting. I think one of them shouted, "The simulation sucks."
Was it Nick?
I don't remember. Also, it could have been in my brain. Also, I had a lot to drink, so...
I just had a very strong reaction because that word is very triggering. Just like the word fealty is, and Doll said that the vamps were there to swear fealty, and I also had a moment. There are a lot of words that TV shows have ruined for me.
Well, maybe someday you'll be over it.
Oh, you're such an asshole! God damn it!
You can always trust your people to come through for you there to say the right things, Michelle.
I have the best fucking friends. Anyways, so Jeremy was running some simulations and he figured out with an 80-something% chance that all of them died really quickly.
But not at the same time.
Within very the Barry Allen of demons killed them all.
Right. But they were killed individually, not as a group.
Yeah.
Which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, I like Nicole's hope that she's oh, they didn't suffer. And it's oh, sweetie, they probably did.
They at least were scared.
Yeah. I like Jeremy being
Jeremy.
When Jeremy was just maybe they were fine, and Nicole's really happy, and he's or maybe they were terrified and it was horrible.
Could go either way.
Yeah,
no one knows
for sure. Tact.
No, he's not known for tact.
And it shows when, after Nicole runs off to buy a sprinkled cupcake for Waverly, he just starts interrogating Dolls.
I physically hurt for him when Dolls was get a life or something. I was that hurt. I hurt for Jeremy.
It seemed kind of out of character to me for him to be so just outrightly aggressive towards one of his friends. And I don't know if that was just me, but it seemed odd when I was watching it.
He had a lot going on.
I mean, he did come back then, and I think he made a Harry Potter reference to couple Jeremy's Harry Potter reference from a few minutes before. So it was out of character, and maybe he caught himself and was okay, let me make it better. But it seemed weird to me, and he did have a lot going on, and they've been building up to him having issues with the drugs and all that from last week's episode through this week's episode. So maybe that's just like a symptom.
Yeah. I mean, I
I
assume
kind of
so.
think they've been building up to it. Yeah. I was just going to say, I think they've been building up to it, like, even longer than that. I mean, because BBD used it sort of as a weapon against him by denying him his drugs in season 1, right?
And he did drag it out at the end
one?
of last year.
Yeah, and he didn't even know he could do that. So he didn't even really know what he was. Because, right, he was surprised when he did that.
Yeah.
And, well, was it season 1 when that guy brought him a case and was like, I can't do this again, you know, whatever. So they'd already been denying him his drugs as punishment. And so he's already, I feel like, unstable. And then season 2 comes, and they're denying him his drugs again when they've got him captured. Then he escapes, and he doesn't have them at all. And then they, like, up and disappear, like, don't even care what happened to him. Like, they knew he was out there without the drugs. So I feel like he's maybe been destabilizing for a long time.
And I've always questioned, like, I don't question Rosita's abilities as a chemist, but I don't know that she necessarily got the formula exactly right, because she even expressed doubts herself when she was making it. So, like, if he was using a anti or pro-dragon serum that wasn't quite right, it could also lead to, like, the destabilization.
I mean, we can never know. We don't know if she prolonged his life or if she shortened it.
Yeah.
I don't think she would
Right.
know either. I mean, she did the best she could, you know, with Jeremy. Like, they did what they could.
And, like, Jeremy was tweaking it and trying to fix it because he knew it, like, it wasn't correct in some way because the symptoms were showing. And he was the only one with enough knowledge to, like, recognize that and, like, be in a position to try and help. But if the person that you're trying to help doesn't want your help, there isn't a ton you can do.
Yes, correct. And that is, you know, a lesson that Jeremy has not learned yet.
No, because he kept trying. And it was in...
he loved dolls.
He
just wanted to make him better. Like, ugh.
Well, in the first episode of season 2, I don't remember specifically what Jeremy told Waverly about dolls, but dolls had, like, a place in his heart because he helped him with a family thing. I don't remember specifically what it was.
It was something to do with his mom, and he helped him do a pull-up once.
Yeah.
Right, so, like, dolls was already important to him, and then, like, working so closely with him over the course of, like, season 2, plus the time jump between the two, season 2 and 3. I mean, that's, like, building a bond. So, like, it would make sense that he would want to help his friend no matter what. And, like, if, like, anybody who's been in a position where they're trying to help a friend that doesn't want help can, like, understand that struggle. Like, I've been in that position, and, like you reach out and you want to help so badly, but they just progressively push you away more and more. And that's kind of exactly what dolls did. Like, you can tell this wasn't the first time that Jeremy had approached him about it. And dolls just didn't want to deal with it anymore. And Jeremy was kind of at a loss. And that was when he reached out to Doc and Waverly both.
Well, and then Jeremy is also wanting to look out for everybody, though, too, because he calls dolls out and basically says, well, you don't know what it could do to everybody else. And so shouldn't they at least know that something's wrong? And dolls shut that down, too.
I think that Jeremy making the executive decision to let the team know probably, like, I feel like it might be a plot point for him in the future, because, like, he knew and he waited until, like, the last minute to say something. And I feel like that'll weigh heavy on his conscience, because maybe there was something that could have been done if he had told everybody about it sooner.
I think what everyone did and what happened and what everyone didn't do is going to weigh on all of them in these next several episodes. Like, Dolls may have died, but he is not gone. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's going to still, like in Downton Abbey, that one dude was on, like, an episode for, like, 10 minutes, and his death, like, caused repercussions throughout the entire show. I know, that's right. You all are here for my very hot Downton Abbey takes. Chris just looked at me like, what the fuck? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I have no clue what you're talking about.
That happened
but I
in the
agree.
first season, Christina. Is it Mary? Like the main lady who married her cousin? You're gonna have to take all of this out. There's crazy Downton Abbey spoilers now. She slept with that dude and then he died. You know what? Never mind. Let me make another analogy. Anyway.
I think that guilt was already going to be an overarching theme of this season.
Just like
because
person of interest.
Oh, do that.
I mean, that's what that show was about.
It's all about guilt.
I hate you. Oh.
You love us so much.
What I was gonna say, what I was gonna say is that guilt was gonna be an overarching theme of the season, not the entire show, not a season of Person of Interest. And this is just like adding onto that guilt. There was the guilt about having to send Alice away, and now there's a guilt because there's going to be a ton of what ifs. What if we could have done something that would have prevented this? Because he was important to every single person on the show, and you don't just bounce back from that. Like, I don't think this is the kind of show where someone's going to die and like a character will mourn for 5 minutes and then move on. Maybe there's a chip involved. I don't know.
No,
like,
I mean, he was like the rock, the stable. Dolls was going to be there. He's going to be our backup, or he's going to be. You knew he was going to be there. You could trust that he was going to be there. Like, you can't trust the dog's going to be there.
No, and you can't. And you saw that last episode. Like, there were circumstances outside of their control, but like he wasn't there, and Dolls was. And Dolls is the one that brought them all together. Like, he's a permanently important character in the show, and I feel like his presence is always going to be there.
Yes, I agree. But he did die. So I guess we can talk about that now.
I have been thinking about it. And it's like it's like we're 3 white people and a person of color died. And like, so we don't really have, like, we can't speak to this specifically. But in my mind, it's very similar to the 2016 debacle of the Code 307 Lexus death for the LGBT community, because a character, like an actor, had to leave the show and they were killed off, and the fandom knew that the person was leaving the show, or for the most part. I don't know if everybody knew that Shamir was leaving the show. I assumed he was. But it was an instance where like you had to write the character off in some way, and killing the character is never pleasant. And there are tons of viewpoints on it, because like Shamir requested it. That doesn't make it right as far as storytelling. But I think the biggest difference I see between like this and like an instance like Lexa is the way that the people who create the show have handled and responded to it. There are interviews with like Emily and Shamir that have come out, and like the people who create Wynonna Earp talk about wanting diversity in the writer's room and in the cast, and hopefully they'll put their money where their mouth is and actually go through with that. And if they don't, then maybe I would lose some trust in them. But right now they haven't done anything. Like, killing Dolls was not great, but Shamir wanted to leave the show. In another instance with Lexa, the people who created the show played it up and baited the fandom, and then went dark when they got negative backlash from it. So I think the main difference for me personally is just the way that the people who create the show have handled it. But either way, it's killing off a character that is part of a marginalized group, and that's never cool.
I think
Agreed.
Go ahead, Heidi. Sorry.
Oh, well, I was saying I agreed, and I was also saying that I feel like I feel like Emily's almost been not hinting about it, but whenever she gets asked questions about, and it's always been about Way Hot and that representation, that you have to tread very carefully, that you're still telling a story, and she always, and this is totally paraphrasing, I haven't like gone back and watched a panel, but she always says something like, you have to be true to the story and to the character and how that character would behave and how all the other characters would behave in the story that you're telling. So I kind of feel, because I feel like it's, well, she said in that last I don't know if you guys have watched the iTunes behind the scenes, where she said they've known for a while, and then he gave them another year.
I feel like you could tell in season 2, in both in the show and also in like if you follow like social media, like that Shamir wasn't not emotionally invested. Like he was just as emotionally invested in the show as always, but like career-wise, he was branching out.
He had a lot going on. He was doing a lot of stuff.
Yeah, he was traveling. He was traveling back and forth, right? A lot. Which is, I think, why in season 2 he went, he went missing for a while. Because he was doing a movie, I thought. I could be making that up.
That dude has a huge career ahead of him.
Right, and I'm not at all, I'm not saying it's, yeah, I agree, like, you killed off a person of color. But I've been racking my brain trying to think about, well, what could you do instead? And still stay true to his character and then the show. Because, like, you're in, and I'm not in the writer's room, so I don't know. I don't know what kind of, what did they throw out in the ideas? Like, because we kind of know what the 100 threw out. And like you said, they baited us. They made us think she was still on the show because she was in the finale. We knew she was in the finale when they were filming it because they told us. So when she actually died, it was like, what?
It's a very different but also very similar situation. I think I don't remember where I read this. So the storyteller is telling a story and you don't necessarily have to agree with it because it's their story to tell. And like if you get upset with something they did, like you don't have to continue to watch. Like you can step away and that's completely fine. That's your prerogative. And like they're telling their story and it's their story, and like you're not like just because you want something doesn't mean you're necessarily going to get it, and just because you deserve something doesn't mean you're necessarily going to get it. And if a show hurts you in a way that you can't recover, like stop watching the show. If you quit Wynonna Earp because this is too much, like this was like the last straw or something, like that's fine. Like that's your right to do that. But ultimately, like it's not in the fans' hands. And like this is gonna sound bad, but like if they killed off like Nicole, like that's their prerogative, and like you wouldn't need to continue watching after that. It doesn't make the people that create the show necessarily horrible people, as long as they handle it in a way that's respectful or as respectful as it can be. But like stories aren't gonna always go the way that you want, and like that's just something that's out of our control. Because if fandom controlled stories, I mean, like, look at the messes that are on AO3.
Well, it actually, and you know what? It didn't make me think of Lexa as much as it made me think of Carter on Person of Interest. That because they both sort of
immediately when she gets off the phone.
Well, they wouldn't. Neither one of them would have, like, right? He's not going to abandon his team. He's not going to suddenly relocate. Carter wouldn't have done that either. And kind of Lexa, but Lexa didn't get a hero. In my opinion, Lexa didn't get a hero's death. She was like in her nightgown and,
that was
killed by a stray bullet.
That was handled very poorly. Carter's death on Person of Interest actually, I think, is a good analog. Carter's story, like, it was a foregone conclusion. Like, if she didn't die, it wouldn't do her character justice because of like the path that the story took.
She wanted off the show. Sorry,
right?
I totally talked over you.
No, you're fine. Like she wanted off the show.
Yeah, she was going to do 3 seasons, and that was it.
Right. So she wanted off the show, and they wrote it in a way where the death was like it made sense. Like the path that she took, like she had to die, and if she didn't die and she just like got into a cab and drove off, like that would make me more upset than her dying. In the case of Dolls, like I wish there were a way for if he was leaving where like in my mind where I could think where he just left. But like if like Dolls wouldn't abandon his people.
Right.
And he's the kind of guy that would go down in like a blaze of glory, like saving people, because that's like what he did. And his conversation with Doc earlier kind of spoke to that. Like they were trying their best, I think, to prepare the audience. But I mean, it was like 20 minutes away, so you didn't have too much time to process.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing I say, right, you're right. I'm a white person. And I was upset when Lexa died. I actually wasn't upset that Lexa died. I didn't want her to die. She's my favorite character, but I was more upset how she died.
I agree.
That she died.
I knew she was
more upset that they let us believe she didn't die. That's really what I was.
She had an expiration date on the show, so when she died, I wasn't surprised it was the manner with which she was killed, because it didn't do her character justice, and the writers were very disrespectful. And seriously, it's like 3 white people over here talking about this, so like you can just completely disregard everything we're saying because we really like our voices don't matter in this one.
No,
but like
they don't.
We have to talk about it.
They don't, but I think the important thing to remember, and kind of maybe one of the bad things I'm seeing on the social media, is that there are specifically white people and a lot of, I think, queer white people who are insisting that the people of color in the fandom don't have the right to be angry about this, and that's wrong. Like, you're right, Michelle, this is as much of a trope as bury your gays, and obviously it hurts. Yeah. And we have no right to tell someone to be quiet and that what they're feeling is wrong. That's bullshit.
And like, I think that like the LGBT side of the Hundi fandom had similar things happen when Lexa died, because we were very upset, and there was an entire the fandom became very toxic because there were people telling people that their feelings were invalid. And I really don't want that to happen for Wynonna Earp, because like there have been articles written recently talking about how great this fandom is, and it would break my heart if like the fandom broke apart over this. Like, everybody, like, your feelings are all valid, and if you want to think in your head that people who are upset about this death are overreacting, that's fine. Just shut up.
Yeah, shut up.
Shut up.
Everybody gets to have an opinion, but keep that one to your fucking self. Okay?
Like if you're gonna put someone down by voicing your opinion, maybe just keep it to yourself, or like talk to a friend about it. Don't go out on the internet. Like, the internet's great because you're anonymous and like you can speak all of your worst thoughts without repercussions. But that doesn't make it right.
Don't attack someone who's in pain because you don't understand what they're going through. If perhaps you are doing this and you are a queer white person like I am, you know what that feels like to have people do that to you. Please realize when you were doing that to someone else. And just because it's not how you feel, how they're feeling, doesn't mean that it's wrong.
It's not even, it's just, I feel like everybody has felt that with regards to a story that they've consumed in some fashion. Like, you feel like the writers have betrayed you in some way, and there are people that love the story and don't feel that way. And just don't engage in those conversations, because it's unnecessary. Like, let people work through their grief however they need to. And if that's like screaming online about how upset they are, like, that's their prerogative. Like, you don't need to respond and like say their feelings aren't valid. Like, basically, everyone, don't be assholes.
Don't be a dick, 2K18.
Like, moral of the story, just don't be horrible, and like everything will be fine.
I think that's,
and maybe make the person of color character not the most expendable. Not that Dolph was, but in other cases, that's been the case.
I think that storytellers definitely need to be more aware of, like, the thing is, if you go to like tvtropes.com, that place is just like a clusterfuck. There's so many tropes. It's difficult to keep track of them. But I think that's why it's important to have like diverse writers' rooms, so that you have people that are aware of the really offensive ones to whatever their identity is. But that's beside the point, I guess, with regards to this right now. It happened. There's nothing that we can do about it. And so just be respectful and let people process the way that they are going to process.
And respectful to everybody involved. The people sharing their feelings about how they feel betrayed, and the people who created the story as well. I'm not saying that you can't be critical, but you can be critical and be respectful at the same time.
Like this fandom idolizes Emily Andres, which, I mean, she's pretty awesome. It's great. But if you don't feel the same way, like, that's fine, but don't attack her. Like, you don't need to like anybody associated with the show, but attacking them is unnecessary. Like, I still think the person who creates the Hundi, Jason Rottenhell, is garbage, but I don't attack him online.
Because he's a person.
Right.
And, go
Well,
ahead, Heidi.
well, no, I was just going to say, yeah, don't attack. But I also think if you're being critical, I mean, you're not adding her or whatever, but you're being critical, that you should not attack the person being critical in her defense because she's more than capable of defending herself.
Yes.
Yes,
that is correct.
Yes. If you're going to say something, be prepared for a rebuttal. Because everybody has their own side to a story and reasons for doing and saying things that you don't necessarily understand.
And I think that is a factor in all of these, horrible. Sorry, I wish you could have seen the little starburst dance that Chris just did. It's pretty great. Completely lost my train of thought. I think that Michelle, like you were saying, there are a lot of everybody's going through something. There's a lot of stuff in the background that we don't know about, and I think that applies to the fandom, and that applies to the show and the actors and the writers. I am sure, just off the top of my head, I'm gonna pick 3: Doll's death, Lex's death, and Tara's death. I'm sure that there is so much that we as fans don't know, and that they can't tell us, or that they won't tell us, or whatever. Like, there's a lot going on that we don't know about. And I'm not saying that that's good or bad. I'm not saying that to come to anybody's defense or to saying it to attack anyone. I just, in any situation, there's a lot going on that we don't know about. And sometimes it's good to try and keep that in mind.
The way that this is my own personal coping method for when something makes me very upset, and this is going to show how insane I am. I like, the reason that I love the simulation thing from Person of Interest so much is that, like, in my mind, I just think, like, there's a billion different simulations going on right now, and this one kind of is shitty right now, and in another one, this didn't happen.
It's very true.
And, like, that's literally how I make myself feel better about things, because I'm like, well, I broke my shoulder, but you know what? In another simulation or universe, this didn't happen.
I do want to say that in any simulation, Cara Danvers and Lena Luthor are soulmates. Anyway, that's all I have to say.
But I don't know. That's like how I make myself feel better. You can adopt it if it helps you. And if it doesn't, I just sound like a raving lunatic, which should maybe also make you feel better.
Heidi, did you have a last thing to add? Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know. Did I? Well, I was just going to say, yeah, Shamir was leaving. And according to the article, he said he wanted to go out a hero. But I don't know. I just think it would be interesting to know, like, well, what other ideas were in the writers' room? Like, what other ways could he have left the show? Because I don't also think it's right to say, well, Shamir wanted to go out a hero, so he went out a hero. But I don't know.
I agree with that. It'd be interesting to see what the other options were. And it also, like, he's an actor on a show. He's not in charge of the creative process. So if they had a different idea that they thought would be better, like, they could veto that and he would have to go with it. But overall, I really enjoyed this episode. As you could tell earlier, I've kind of been, like, rewatching all the Mama Earp and Wynonna stuff obsessively. So, like, for me personally, there was a lot in the episode to love. Doll's dying. I can't watch that scene because it makes me cry, and I don't like crying. But I think it was a good episode, and I think I really look forward to seeing what they do next week, or this week, the next episode.
Yes, I agree. I'm interested to see what happens next.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be intense because, I mean, this might be an unpopular opinion, but I actually liked Wynonna and Dolls better than Wynonna and Doc because I feel like Wynonna and Doc are too much alike, and I feel like Wynonna felt like she wasn't good enough for Dolls because she was so, like, steadfast and solid.
I never thought of it that way.
I think you're probably right, Heidi.
Yeah. I feel like it's going to have a huge impact on her because...
Even if it wasn't necessarily romantically, I think that she, like, in their relationship, whether it be platonically or romantically, didn't feel like she deserved it because she sees herself as flawed.
Yeah,
or as
I
broken.
think Doc is just as flawed, right? He's a scoundrel. He's not always that trustworthy. He's, like, I feel like in some way she Well, and she hadn't picked, right? She wasn't really with either of them. But I feel like if she ended up with Doc, she'd be settling, just being like, well, that's what I deserve. I don't deserve him because he's too good.
I could see that. I don't know how any of this is going to play out as usual, because the show like goes right and then swerves left and then like does like a fucking somersault and lands nowhere near where I thought it would be. So it'll be interesting.
I agree. I think it'll be very interesting. Dolls may be dead, but he's definitely not gone. Like, we're going to feel him probably until the end of the series. And, like, I just want to point out that this is a genre show. And, you know, unless your name is Tara McClay, you're never definitely dead. Like, you never know what could happen. I mean, look at Lost Girl. How many times did Tim Rosen's character come back?
Also, like, Tamsin in it.
Yeah.
You know, on that note, I mean, in the TV Guide interview, Shamir wouldn't say he was actually gone, which I feel like if you were actually gone, you would just say you were actually gone.
I mean,
he like laughed. I was like, well, I could come back and choose episode 11. Ha ha ha.
Well, that's the thing. They like said it was a series wrap if you watch the bonus stuff, but like, is it really?
You just never know. We don't know.
In what order did they film it in? Well, and then the curious thing was when Emily said he gave us one more year. Well, 2 episodes isn't one more year. I don't know. I just thought the whole thing was curious. I wasn't even going to say it until you said that. Then I was like, okay,
I'm just saying you never know.
Yeah, you don't.
It's not definite. Like, we're just speculating. But, like, I mean, like, Bobo came back.
Yes. I still think Willow will come back. I think Mercedes, we're going to see her again. I know she didn't die. She did get her face taken off.
How do you put one's face back on?
Michelle, it has to do with potatoes, and you just don't need to worry about it.
Oh,
I mean, how do you make a person a tree?
Right. Are we really talking logic?
That was one of the things I said. I wrote a list of things like, well, what else could have happened with dolls? I was like, well, they could have made him a tree.
The one
what's
thing
going on out in the woods.
I really, really love is when the Revenant was like, the trees are moving. And I'm like, Bullshire is so bad that the trees are fucking running. Like, they figured out how to move, grown legs, and they're bolting. Like, they're getting the hell out of Dodge. Like, he must be a pretty bad guy if the forest is moving.
If you guys don't have
that all the animals are gone.
Yeah, it's no good. It's
we can even talk about Bullshire.
Oh yeah, we didn't.
You guys can if you want. I thought we'd be here.
No, we're gonna wrap it up. Like, Bullshire showed up. He can apparate. His beret dude is maybe gone. I don't know. They have magical powers.
Yeah, I don't know.
No, that guy better be dead. If Dalton's dead, that guy better be dead.
But I don't know. We'll see Bullshire in his hat game again very soon, and we'll talk about it more then.
Can't believe he stole Megan's hat. My God, is nothing sacred. I do want to say thank you so much to Heidi for coming on. I think you added quite a bit to this discussion. I mean, Michelle and I love to talk to you anyway. I'm going to speak for Michelle because that's what I do. So we really appreciate it. Do you want to tell everybody how they can find you on the Twitter?
Sure, but I actually don't know. What is it? High Dizzle? I don't know.
It's High Dizzle 30? And then a number. Wait, 30? Hold on. You DM'd me, I think, somewhere. High Dizzle 20, HIDIZZLE 20.
This is very on brand for us.
I found it.
You can find me, Monica, at Lesbienzer.
And me, Michelle, at Micknick1291.
You can shout at our podcast on Twitter, either through DM or you can tweet at us. We are at ErpsplainPod.
You can email us
at... just tell them about the website.
Okay, all right. You can go to our website, erpsplainpod.com. There's a link to our Patreon where you can support us if you want to. There's a contact tab that has all the information we would normally rattle off, but we're not that organized. There's links to all the Earp reviews, all our episodes. Monica, talk about iTunes.
Jesus. Okay. You can find us in many places. If you... Motherfucker. Okay.
If you want to rate and review us, you can do so on iTunes.
And if you wouldn't mind doing that, we would really appreciate it, trying to counteract some very negative 1-star reviews that people have given us that I think is just a personal vendetta.
If you have a very negative review, could you please just DM me personally?
Just email
because
that directly to Michelle.
just send it to me because I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
So you can rate and review us on iTunes, and then you can subscribe to us on iTunes, Google Play, pretty much any podcast app. Yeah, I think
Except
that
for
it?
Stitcher, right?
Not Stitcher, not like any like the services you have to pay for. So like not Stitcher, not Spotify. Is that something you pay for?
Sometimes you pay for it.
I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, we
Just
don't know
like-
what we're doing, really.
Just like the podcast app on iPhones, and then like Podcast Addict on Androids, because that's the only one I know about. Anyway, this was our podcast.
That's how you can find us. Maybe we'll be more organized next week. Probably not. We have a couple of hectic weeks coming up here, so I'm not sure how things are going to look. Thanks again one last time to Heidi, and thanks to all of you for listening. And remember, it may be a shit show, but it's our shit show.
It was quite a shit show.